I'm willing to bet that if you're in America, you probably have not heard of the #1 movie in the world today. And if you have, you likely haven't seen it. As a Mandarin speaker, I have looked forward to seeing this movie for some time now, and finally got the opportunity to see it 2 days back. And the movie I'm talking about is Ne Zha 2, which came out in China last month on the 29th and came out in America this month on the 14th, so it's only been here about a week. In today's video, we're going to talk a little bit about everything you need to know about the history, reason this film was killing it, and most importantly, why you need to take your family to see it as soon as possible. And finally, I'm going to break down my personal observations and feelings having gone to see the film myself, and how it compares to, your Disney, your DreamWorks, your Pixar films that are so famous and typically dominate the world animation situation. And be sure to stay until the end, where we talk a little bit about what this success means for China on a global stage. That being said, let's get into it. So what is Ne Zha? Ne Zha is a Chinese story, and the first movie came out in 2019 and was produced by a very, very famous Chinese producer named 2’s. And it was a blockbuster on its own, and it's still on the Chinese highest grossing movie list of all time. And it did make it to the American theaters in 2019, and it was suggested to be nominated for the Best International Film at the Academy Awards, but unfortunately wasn't nominated. Ne Zha films are Chinese films through and through. The story is roughly based off of a Ming Dynasty novel called Feng Shen Yan Yi. You don't need to get too caught up in that. It's not tremendously important for you to understand the story at all. You can do a ChatGPT search, spend an hour, and really understand the background if that's what you'd like to do. And a bit of a spoiler alert. If you don't want to know anything about Ne Zha 1 and its storyline, skip this part, go to the next section. Simply put, Ne Zha is about this historical artifact that's so powerful that it needed to be split into a good part and an evil part. The evil boy is Ne Zha. He is basically cursed to die within 3 years. The story is really about how his parents deal with this, how he deals with that. Do you accept this fate? Do you reject it? Do you fight for what you believe is your destiny? And these are kind of the themes the movie deals with. All the while, the movie has some absolute epic battles. And the ending of this film is probably one of the most surprising and most unexpected endings I've ever seen in a film. I'm not going to go into it. I'll leave that for you to watch. Because Ne Zha 2 takes place directly after Ne Zha 1, I watched it before I saw Ne Zha 2, and you should as well. You can check it out on YouTube. The full version's actually available, and I think the only caveat is that you have to watch a few commercials. And now a little bit about Ne Zha 2. And it's kind of a big deal. It's by far the biggest movie in the history of Chinese cinema. It's already the #1 animated movie of all time and is breaking all kinds of records. It was intentionally released on January 29th in China, which coincides with the beginning of Chinese New Year. Not only did it coincide with a good time of being able to go and see it, there were huge promotions on buses, pushing people not only to see a great movie, but to take advantage of the representation this provides for Chinese people on the world stage. So not only were they going to entertain themselves, but they were supporting China as a nationalist cause, and it was an extremely successful campaign. On Chinese social media, one of the netizens hailed the film as a historic moment of cultural significance. It's already the #1 non-Hollywood movie of all time. It's the first film to exceed $1 billion in a single geographic market, and it's the first non-Hollywood film to surpass $1 billion in global box office earnings. And also right now, it's crept up on the all-time highest grossing list, where it sits at number 8. And the question is it going to stop anytime soon? And that's hard to say. The projected final amount goes up and down almost on a daily basis, but most recently it's been adjusted to make about 2.08 billion globally, which would edge out Star Wars: The Force Awakens globally to land at number 5 on the all-time list. I think the reasons for this are really kind of a perfect storm, right? The world, I know I am, is tired of the Marvel superhero movies. These things have dominated Hollywood for maybe 2 decades now. What do we have? 3 Iron Man, 4 Thors, how many Captain Americas, how many Avengers, part 1s, part 2? The list goes on and on, but after a while it just seems recycled and boring. The big animating companies, right, have also been kind of showing a similar lack of motivation, resulting moving much more often to doing updates and live action remakes of stories that have already been told a long time ago. And as I said, it's a testament not only to the quality of the film, and they came together to really accomplish success on the world stage. And so we've seen how it's been doing in China, but how do you think it's been doing in America for the first week? Let's take a look. It debuted here at number 5 with a 4-day gross of about 8.3 million. This is by no means world shaking. It's solid, not the best. Remember, this is still set to open in Hong Kong, Vietnam, and it still has a long tenure here as well as China, so there's still time for it to catch more fire. Currently right now, Ne Zha 2 is available in 770 theaters in the United States across 400 cities. And speaking of Americans, I checked out Rotten Tomatoes and it's actually at a 99%, which is absolutely amazing. And now I want to take a look at some of the reviews that I saw people write. It's also a rare blockbuster that offers something worthwhile for a wide-ranging audience. Another person said, Ne Zha 2 is surprisingly epic on every level. This is one that must be seen on the biggest screen possible. And finally, brilliant work that rivals and even surpasses our Western offerings. So you can see clearly that people that did see it absolutely loved it. And so that being said, I want to share a bit about my review, my critique, and my takeaways from it. And the first thing I'd say is I'm a little bit irritated. And I'm irritated because it's such a wonderful movie, but it's being overlooked simply because people don't know about it. And I think really there's been little to no advertising that I've seen in the United States, except for Chinese social media. And I understand it, but it's also not too late. You're watching this video, share it, go see the film, tell your friends about it. You will not be disappointed, I promise you. And another thing that kind of was a bummer, in Ne Zha 1, the dubbing was absolutely fantastic. It was well done. It was one of the best dubbing jobs I've ever seen.
This is on me. So I've decided to take him on as an apprentice. I'll shape the demon pill into a demon-fighting warrior of justice.
Unfortunately, in Ne Zha 2, there are no dubs at this point in time. You hear Mandarin the whole time. But I know for many American viewers, we are not used to that. Hopefully, with enough push and momentum and success, they will hire a team to do some dubs. So guys, if you're looking for American dubbers, I'm happy to help. Reach out to me. I'd love to help you with the project. And in my experience, I saw a relatively late showing at around 10:15 p.m. And the theater was actually pretty packed, maybe 70-80% packed. And as I walked in and I surveyed the crowd, I was surprised to see that most of them were actually Asian, Chinese, Asian American, I'm not sure. I heard a lot of Mandarin, but I have to say guys, no lie, no BS, it is probably the top 3, if not the #1 coolest animated film I've ever seen in my life. First of which were just, the visuals were astounding. This, to me, is something I'd never seen. It had some of the most glorious, fantastical magic, heavenly colors, flawlessly went back and forth. You're in the dream world, the God world, the actual world. It was just a treat, a visual treat, I would say. And it's certainly on par with anything I've seen in Hollywood from DreamWorks, from Pixar, and definitely from Disney. Second of all, the story. Definitely watched Ne Zha 1, but I don't think it's really that important. It's not going to take away from what's happening. The story is delivered in an understandable way. The characters are easily identifiable. The plot's clear, builds at a regular interval. I won't say that much more, but I think the English and the pacing of the story is done very well for foreign audiences. There's lots of jokes intentionally put in there, many of which are specifically geared to American audiences. There are American tongue twisters put into the film. There are very hilarious references to Disney cartoons that you can't miss when you see it. It's a well thought out, very intelligently delivered production style. And of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the action. The action was insane. The scale and scope of the fights was like Lord of the Rings, but bigger, in the air, with gods. Probably the best action animation I've ever seen in my life. And finally, the emotions were something I didn't quite expect. The movie wasn't just entertainment. It was a comment on the human condition, stresses, constraints of life. It was not just for Chinese. It didn't feel like a very Chinese film. It didn't feel like an American film, but a human film. I personally cried 2 times during the film. I'm not going to explain when. I think you will too. I think most people do. It's incredibly touching the way they delivered it. A little spoiler alert, but I think it will mean something particularly profound to you if you've ever struggled with personal love and acceptance from maybe your parents, or maybe those around you, your peers or society, issues with your identity and being yourself, or really needing to make a sacrifice that would cost you a lot but benefits everyone except you. These kind of themes are really hard harped on quite heavily in the film. And I could go on and on, but I don't know how to explain it, but I feel like it perfectly weaves and layers a Oscar caliber drama movie with a family fantasy movie with an epic Lord of the Rings victory, hero's journey kind of thing, coped with a really psychological exploration of the human heart and human condition. It really hits on all of the strings. It's insanely fulfilling, and it's an amazing 2.5 hours of animation that's really not just about entertainment. It sounds cheesy, but I think you'll be changed after seeing this film. So simply put, my advice is go watch Ne Zha 1 for free on YouTube, after which go see Ne Zha 2 in the theaters. Afterwards, thank me. And finally, what does this movie mean? Obviously, Chinese people are proud of it. It's a big success. And I would say it's not really surprising that we're seeing this. I mean, I was raised in the 80s and 90s enjoying Jackie Chan movies, Bruce Lee movies. So it makes sense that over time, things are just getting better and better. I mean, think even well into the 2000s, we've been seeing an uptick and increase of amazing Chinese productions. Think back to Jet Li, Li Lianjie. He was an awesome martial artist and made it to a Hollywood film, Lethal Weapon 4. After that, we had Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon in 2000, which won all kinds of awards, and that was also in Mandarin. Following that, we had Jet Li's Hero in 2002. We had House of Flying Daggers in 2004. We had Kung Fu Hustle and all the crazy spin-offs with soccer and this and that. That was a whole thing that took place for a while as well, many movies. We had Jet Li that came out in Fearless. Then we had Yip Man, which is a very famous Donnie Yen film set. 1, 2, 3, and 4. I believe the fourth one had Mike Tyson in it, right? And most recently, I believe this is on Amazon, if not a movie, The Three Body Problem. There's a game that came out last year called Wukong, which is basically one of the best action games that we've seen in years. AAA level, just basically has cemented China as being able to produce some of the best games in the world. And now we have Ne Zha 2, which is smashing records everywhere it looks. So I mean, you have China, from the 1970s, rapidly getting bigger economically in terms of what they can produce, to the quality, to right now, where they rival the best producers of cell phones, of electronic cars, of video games, of animations, and it's only going to get better and better. And as technology is shared, collaboration and ideas bring people together, I'm excited to see what we're going to see moving forward in the future. So I want to ask you guys, if you've seen the movie, write down in the comments, what did you think about the movie? Do you have any questions about the story or themes that perhaps a person more familiar with it could answer for you? And furthermore, how do you feel about the uptick of Chinese story-based media making it to the United States? How does it compare with, Greek and Roman and Norse mythology, which is so prevalent here in our movies, in our video games? And finally, guys, if you got value from this video, smash like, drop a comment about the comments we talked about below, and be sure to click subscribe to stay up to date with all the movies I do dealing with China, US, food, culture, travel, news, and people. Thanks so much, guys, and we'll see you in the next video.